Hello students, today we are going to start another type of protozoan disease. In the last video we have seen the two type of protozoan diseases we have completed. Today we are going to start the third type of protozoan disease which is very common, that is malaria. So normally we know that the disease that is actually caused by the Anopheles mosquito. Actually, Anopheles mosquito is just a vector who transmit the disease. The causative organism for the Plasmodium actually are of four different types of species. What are they? The first species is Plasmodium vivax. Second causative organism is Plasmodium falciparum. Third causative organism is the Plasmodium ovale, and the fourth type of causative organism is the Plasmodium ovale. So all the types of causative organism will cause the disease malaria, in which some symptoms they are common, some of the symptoms they can differ, but yes, Plasmodium falciparum, which is actually a little bit more dangerous as compared to the other three types of causative organism. So first of all, just see what is the causative organism. So the causative agent for the disease malaria is Plasmodium vivax. Next one is Plasmodium ovale. Third one is Plasmodium malariae, and the fourth one is Plasmodium falciparum. So these are the specific name, and Plasmodium generic name. I have written just a word of the generic name. So just see, in case of Plasmodium species, Plasmodium genus, they cause the disease malaria. Now how it will be transmitted? How it will be transmitted? Through one transmitting agent, and that agent who transmit that protozoa, Plasmodium protozoa, that will be mosquito. Okay, and what mosquito? See, here we have three types of mosquito: Anopheles, Culex and Aedes. So in this case, this is the female Anopheles mosquito. Now there will be a question that can appear, why it is female, not the male? See what happened. The first difference is, in case of the male and the female, their food habits are different. If it is in case of male, they generally take the fruit juice or the flowers. From the flowers they used to take the nectar. That is the food habit. But if it is in case of female mosquito generally takes the blood of the mammal, because they actually require a type of protein. That protein is albumin protein, that is necessary for their egg production. So whenever they produce the egg, they require the protein that is albumin protein. Now what happened to that organism, that Anopheles mosquito? They will not get the albumin protein, so that's why they have to suck blood. Okay, and we know that our blood, not only human but other mammals also, our blood is a rich source of the proteins. One of the protein is the albumin protein. So that's why the female have to suck the blood from the mammals. That is the reason. Now to see what happened to the causative organism agent, that is the Plasmodium. This is actually a type of protozoa. We are discussing the protozoan disease. Now what is the specific characteristics of the protozoa which is coming under the sporozoa? That is the class of this Plasmodium, all the types of four types of species. That in case of sporozoa, they do not have any type of locomotory organ. So if they do not have any locomotory organ, then obviously they have to take the one type of moving component of our body, and which is circulating in our body, that is blood. So with the blood, they have to move through the different organs, and then only it is possible that we can able to, that means this plasmodium can able to reach the different organs like liver or the RBCs. So this is the thing that in case of this protozoa, the class Sporozoa, they lack actually the locomotory organ. So they do not have even any type of cilia or flagella. If they don't have the cilia and flagella, they cannot move. So they do not have locomotory organ, and that's why they have to depend on our circulatory system, so blood, through which it will able to circulate. Now one thing also we have to know that if it is in case of the female mosquito, they suck the blood. We know that our characteristics of blood is whenever the blood comes out of the blood vessel, it starts to get coagulated. And if it coagulate, then the Anopheles mosquito, the female Anopheles mosquito cannot suck the blood, and even if suppose somehow suck also in that same time period, then inside their body, inside their GI tract, it start to get coagulated. And if it coagulates, what will happen? They will not able to digest the blood. So what happened? Before they suck the blood, they actually release a chemical, actually a anticoagulant, that is released from the salivary gland of the female mosquito, female Anopheles mosquito. What is that? That is anophyllin. So this anophyllin anticoagulant. So this anticoagulant actually is this anticoagulant anophyllin have to be injected by the female Anopheles mosquito before they suck the blood, so that the blood in their mouth part, that is the piercing type of mouth part, do not get coagulated, and they can take the blood in the liquid state only. That is one very important thing, and this is the reason actually how this plasmodium enters inside your body. So what happened, whenever they release this anticoagulant anophyllin inside your body, that means whenever they suppose somehow inject that mosquito, they will release this anophyllin, and whenever this anophyllin is released, what will happen? Along with anophyllin, one infectious state of the plasmodium enters also with their saliva. So in the saliva they have anophyllin, and in the saliva they also have one infectious stage of plasmodium. What is that? This is the sporozoite. So this is the juvenile form of the protozoa plasmodium. That sporozoite will enter into the bloodstream directly. So what happened? This sporozoite will enter, which is sickle shape. Somehow it will look like this. It is single celled stage. Whatever the stage it will have, the juvenile state or adult stage, it is going to have one single state only. That is the characteristics of protozoa. So what happened in this state, sporozoite, they reach the circulatory system, that is in the blood. Now what happened in the blood, if it enters, then will not be taken by, or it will be not engulfed by the WBCs. The phagocytic characteristics of WBC can kill this that sporozoite state of plasmodium, but it is not happening. Why it is not happening? Because whenever the sporozoite enters inside your blood vessel, inside our bloodstream, soon after it enters inside your bloodstream, directly after, within half an hour or 1 hour, it reaches liver. So what happened? Whenever it enters inside the liver, now it is not able to be catched by the WBC, and after that inside the hepatocytes or the liver cell, it will start to undergo the process of mitosis, where the number of those protozoa will start to increase. Now there is another important thing we have to know, that what happened to the protozoan parasite. See, this is also a digenic parasite. Digenic parasite means it completes its life cycle in 2 hosts. So this malarial parasite, see, this malarial parasite is a digenic parasite. That means it completes its life cycle in 2 hosts. What are the two hosts? One is mosquito, another is human. So first of all, if it is in case of mosquito, it is the primary host, and the human, this is the secondary host. Now, what is the distinction why human is the secondary host or why this mosquito will be a primary host? Reason is that the plasmodium organism, that plasmodium completes its sexual life cycle in the mosquito's body. So that's why mosquito will be the primary host, and inside human body, the parasite, that plasmodium parasite, that will complete its asexual life cycle, where the normal mitosis will occur, where just growth phase is there in that, or suppose host, that is human, that is known as a secondary host. Just remember, in the mosquito's body, they will complete the sexual life cycle, where the meeting of male and the female organism will occur and zygote formation will take place. So that's why mosquito will be a primary host, and the human, that will be known as a secondary host. Why? Because in human body, it will complete the asexual life cycle, where it will undergo only the normal mitosis, growth will occur, numbers will be increased. So that's why human will be known as the secondary host. Now, another important thing, that why this parasite is a secondary host, why can't complete its life cycle in only one body? Why not it suppose complete its life cycle only in human body, suppose? The reason is that first of all, that plasmodium undergo the growth process, the numbers will undergo mitosis and it will increase the number. For that, they will require a normal optimum temperature, which is going to match with human. But now, whenever they need to undergo sexual reproduction, they require lower temperature. So that's why in homeotherms, that means in case of our body, it will not complete its sexual life cycle. In human body, only asexual life cycle is possible. But for plasmodium, sexual reproduction require low temperature, or in case of mosquito, the arthropod, where the organism are not going to have a constant body temperature. So that's why in high temperature in human body, the plasmodium cannot complete the sexual life cycle. So that's why actually they have to shift. The plasmodium have to shift from human body to mosquito's body. That is the reason. So that is about the just information. One thing also, that the types, that different types of diseases will show pretty much similar type of symptoms. What are the symptoms? See, in the diseases, the first symptom by which we can understand that yes, that malarial fever is, the fever is only malarial, not the others. Why? Because in malarial fever only, the individual will have shivering. So shivering, along with that, individual will have chill and fever, and recurrence of fever will occur at a certain time period, at a gap of certain time period, like every after 48 hours it will cause the shivering, and along with shivering he will have profuse sweating also. Then after that, the fever, that will be cooled down, and after once again 48 hours it will all once again show its symptom. So what happened? This type of symptoms actually is different. It is not found in other types of fever. Only remember that in case of malarial fever, that individual will have shivering, and along with that profuse sweating will occur, and that fever and sweating and shivering, that will it will actually occur at a time period of 48 hours or 72 hours. So another type of symptoms, that individual will have liver enlargement or spleen problems. So these two organs, liver or spleen, that too will be affected. Why? Because this malarial parasite completes one of its cycle in human body is inside the RBCs, that is the erythrocytic phase. So whenever it undergo the erythrocytic phase, it will burst the RBC, and whenever it bursts the RBC is where it is going to die, where it is going to destroy, it is inside the spleen. And as we have also one state, that is the pre-erythrocytic phase, that will occur inside the liver. So that's why also the liver and the spleen, that enlargement or liver some type of problems will appear in the liver and the spleen. So this type of symptoms will appear, but yes, this disease can be curable by taking the drug, which is very common. See, this drug is also interesting, that what type of drugs are used earlier. The earlier time, actually one type of drug was used that is very bitter actually. What is that? That is quinine. So this quinine is extracted from the bark of one tree, that is cinchona tree. So from the cinchona tree, from the bark, that bark actually it is extracted, and that bark have to be dipped in water in the previous night, and the next day in the morning they have to take it. So that water, whenever it takes, it may reduce the malarial infection to a certain to a little extent, not much. How we can able to prevent the disease? See, first prevention is, do not let the mosquitoes grow. First of all, the mosquito larva. See, we cannot control this parasite. Okay, inside human body it will complete its life cycle. By taking the drugs it can be, but it is a easier way how we can able to control also the disease by stopping the life cycle of the mosquito. So what happened? The mosquito, the Anopheles mosquito, lay their eggs in the water bodies, stagnant water bodies. So in that stagnant water bodies, whenever they lay eggs, that eggs that will going to hatch, and the larva will appear, and those larvae live in the actually in the water bodies. So waterlogging have to be prevented. Use the mosquito nets. This way we can able to prevent ourselves from the biting of the mosquito. If we can prevent ourselves from the biting of the mosquito, then also this parasite, the Plasmodium, cannot enter inside our body. So this way it can be prevented. So let's just start the life cycle, how it will complete its life cycle. Let's just start. Now just come to the life cycle. First of all, suppose this is the skin, human skin, and the mosquito. Suppose this is the mosquito. It pierces the human skin. So whenever it pierces the human skin, then what happens? It releases also amount of saliva, and in that saliva it actually have the anophyllin, that anticoagulant, and whenever it releases the saliva, from the salivary gland actually this sporozoite is the infectious state of Plasmodium. It also enters the human circulatory system, that is inside the blood vessel. So what happened? This sporozoite, okay, so this sporozoite will also enter into the human circulatory system. So whenever it enters the human circulatory system, it do not stay for much longer time. Why? Because it has to protect itself from the WBC. Otherwise WBC will phagocytose those sporozoite, isn't that? So that's why now this sporozoite that will enter inside the liver within half an hour from the circulatory system. So within half an hour, what happened? Sporozoite will enter inside the liver. Now inside the liver, what happened? We have the hepatic lobules, and in that hepatic lobule we have the hepatocytes. So see here, suppose this is the hepatocyte. These are the hepatocytes. So inside the hepatocyte, that sporozoite, so this sporozoite enters, and whenever it enters, it turns round, and whenever it turns round, what we can call this hepatocyte with that sporozoite, we can call this structure as a cysont. Okay, so now inside the liver cell or the hepatocyte, it will start to multiply by the normal mitosis. So asexual reproduction occurs. That means it will just multiply in number. First of all, the nuclear division will occur. Nuclear division means just the nucleus will undergo the process of division, mitosis, and from that cytoplasm it will develop a envelope and it will turn into a merozoite. See, whenever it undergo mitosis, after that it will produce around 25 merozoite, and this merozoite we can call also this merozoite as the cryptozoite. Okay, so at one period of time, whenever the merozoite or the cryptozoite completes, suppose taking whole nutrient from the hepatocyte, then after that it will liberate, it will burst, and whenever it bursts, those merozoite or those cryptozoite, they will reach the sinusoids of the liver, and whenever it enters into the sinusoids, then maybe it is possible that once again it can enter into new liver cell, or maybe it can reach the blood vessel. So what can happen? It can reach the bloodstream or it can enter into new liver cell. And here we can get two stages. See, what are those stages? Whenever that sporozoite enter inside the liver cell, hepatocyte, this phase, what we can call this phase is known as the pre-erythrocytic phase. Okay, so it complete its pre-erythrocytic phase inside the liver, and whenever this liver cells burst, then after that it enters into a new liver cell to continue the division or increase the number. So that phase, whenever it enter into the new liver cell, that will be also known as another stage, and that stage, this is known as exoerythrocytic phase. Okay, so in this exoerythrocytic phase, this liver cells, whenever it bursts, the merozoites come, and after that it will enter into new liver cells under a cycle. That cycle is known as the exoerythrocytic phase. Now, what happened whenever this merozoite enter into a new liver cell? Now, the second generation merozoites are known as the metacryptomerozoites. See, the first generation merozoites, they are known as the first generation states, that is the simple merozoites, and whenever the merozoite will enter into a new liver cell and undergo the second cycle, that will be known as the metacryptomerozoite. Okay, now come to the next point. So those merozoites or that cryptozoite will have two choices. First choice, it can enter into a new liver cell and it can continue its life cycle there inside the liver cells, or this may be also possible that it can enter into the bloodstream and now it can enter inside the RBC. So what happened? Somehow, suppose it enters inside the RBC or the red blood corpuscle. So now just see what happened. It enters the RBCs here. Okay. So now what will happen? See, those merozoites, whenever it enters, it will be very much small. Okay. Now gradually it will start to feed the whole corpuscle. That means whatever the microorganelles and cytoplasm is present, it that Merozoite will start to take all of it. Okay, whenever it start to gradually accumulating all the that cytoplasmic content, then what happen? This RBC. Okay, so this RBC will start to develop a cavity inside, or that cavity also we can call, this is known as the vacuole. So empty space vacuole will start to develop, and this Merozoite will start to increase its number, increase its size. So whenever this Merozoite enters inside the RBC, now those Merozoites will be known as the phanerozoites. Okay, so these are now known as the phanerozoites. Now what happened here, this phanerozoites, it actually start to produce a granule, and that granules will be derived from the hemoglobin, the respiratory pigment of the RBC. Now we all know that the RBC contain a pigment, hemoglobin pigment. So that hemoglobin will be taken by this phanerozoites, and after that it produces its own chemical for its own requirement, that is hemozoin. So some type of dots, so those dots, they are known as the Schaffner's dots, they will start to appear inside the RBC itself. So vacuole is already there, and along with that they will also develop those Schaffner's dots. So what happened, this is a dot here, actually it is derived from the RBC's hemoglobin. So those phanerozoites, so these are the phanerozoites, so those phanerozoites will also increase its number. Okay, and along with that it will also produce the dots, or those the toxins. Those toxins are known as hemozoin. Now what happens, see, at one period of time, whenever the corpuscle do not have any more or further organelle or that cytoplasmic content, at one period of time what happened, this RBC burst, and whenever it burst, what happened, those phanerozoites, they will be liberated. Okay, so this liberated structures, what we can call, so these are known as the gametocyte. So the gametocytes, they will be present, they will be liberated into the bloodstream, and along with that, what happened, due to those Schaffner's dot, a chemical is released. Those chemicals are known as hemojoin chemical. Remember, hemojoin is the main reason why the individual will have shivering whenever he will be cold or he will have fever. So that hemojoin, that will be released, that toxins will be released, and what happened, those Schaffner's dots, this actually whole life cycle we are talking about only the Plasmodium vivax. So if it is different type of, suppose Plasmodium species, the dots will be also named differently. So different types of dots will be developed. So in the case of Plasmodium vivax, it is Schaffner's dots. So those Schaffner's dots, they will start to be deposited under the skin, or maybe inside the liver, or maybe in the spleen. Okay, so that's why the individual which have malaria, he will have problems of liver also, spleen also. Okay, so now just see, due to this hemojoin, that individual will have shivering as well as fever. Now that cycle where those Merozoite enters inside the RBCs, those convert into phanerozoites, and phanerozoites will increase its number inside the RBCs, taking the hemoglobin and increase its number. That cycle, what we can call it, this cycle, this will be known as the erythrocytic cycle. So erythrocytic cycle will be the cycle where those phanerozoites complete its one stage inside the RBC. So inside the RBC, it will be completing, and after that those gametocytes, they will be liberated in the bloodstream. Whenever it start to liberate, see, some of them they are larger and some of them they are smaller. So those gametocytes which are larger, they are known as the mega gametocyte. Okay, so they are known as mega gametocyte, and some of the gametocyte they are smaller, and those smaller gametocytes are known as the microgametocyte. Okay, so we can have two type of gametocytes in our bloodstream. They are megagametocyte, and some of them they are smaller. They are known as the microgametocyte. Now they are freely present in the bloodstream. That means it is present in the blood plasma. Now what happened? See, here it completes the whole cycle, asexual cycle in the human body. Now actually those mega and micro gametocyte will undergo sexual reproduction, which cannot be possible in human body because of high temperature. They require actually a little bit lower temperature so that it can undergo sexual reproduction. So that's why what happened, this mega and micro gametocytes that will be now present in the bloodstream. Now, if a mosquito, okay, if a Anopheles female mosquito sucks the blood, then along with the blood plasma, this megagametocyte and microgametocyte that will be also entered inside the female mosquito's GI tract or gastrointestinal tract, and whenever that micro and megagametocyte will enter into the GI tract of the mosquito, then inside the mosquito's GI tract it will start to have the sexual life cycle. So up to this is the asexual life cycle. Now after that come to the sexual life cycle. See, suppose here I will draw just like this. Here these are the salivary glands, this is the esophagus, this is suppose stomach, then this is the intestine. Okay, just for your easier convenience I have drawn the diagram. Actually it will not be like this also. So what is happening, this micro and mega gametocyte will enter inside the mosquito's GI tract. So they will take the blood, and whenever it takes the blood, it will go from the esophagus to the stomach. From the stomach, it will go to the intestine. Now, inside the intestine, what happened? There is a very completely distinctive differences will be seen in the megagametocyte and microgametocyte. What is that? See, this microgametocyte, they will be taken by the mosquito with the blood. So suppose this is the microgametocyte and this is the megagametocyte. So what happened here? This microgametocyte, okay, so this microgametocyte will undergo a process that is known as the exflagellation state, where actually this microgametocyte will have nuclear division. Then after that a cytoplasmic content will develop around those nucleus, and after that it will produce the flagella or a little bit structure, elongated structure, which help this organism to swim inside the intestinal region of the mosquito. What happened here? They will develop small cilia-like things and become motile. So they will move randomly in the intestine. So what we can resemble this microgamete with the sperm, but it's actually not the sperm. They are not even the gamete, they are the whole species. This is the organism. So this is one type of protozoa, one type of plasmodium. So it will undergo the exflagellation process, and after that it become motile and it develop a locomotory organ, because of what it can swim. In case of the megagametocyte also, this is the megagametocyte. So this megagametocyte will also undergo a little differences, not like completely different structures of microgametocyte. It's not like that. A little differences will be there, little development will be there in case of megagametocyte. What is that? It will divide, okay, and it will produce two structures. One is larger, another is smaller. The smaller structure will be known as the polar body. Like in case of human, we have seen it, the polar body, how actually it occurs in oogenesis process. So this is happening for the whole species. the megagametocytes divides to form two structures. One is smaller, which can be resembled with a polar body, and this larger structure, it become non-motile, and that structure, this is the mature female organism. So a male and female organism have developed. See, after that, what will happen next? See, suppose this is the mature megagametocyte and this is the mature male gametocyte. So the male and the female gametocyte will undergo fertilization. Why? Because this mature gametocyte will develop a fertilization cone, and after that this microgametocyte which develop the cilia. Now what will happen? This microgametocyte can swim and it can reach the site where the mature female organism is present, because the female organism cannot move. It is a non-motile structure. So this microgametocyte will reach the mature female gametocyte. Female gametocyte will develop a fertilization cone, and after that fertilization will take place. And whenever fertilization will take place, after that it will produce a zygote. So this zygote will be developed inside the intestine itself, and that zygote will undergo the next stage. It will produce a worm-like structure. Okay, and whenever it produces a worm-like structure, what we can call it? We can call it is known as the ookinete. So it will form a structure, worm-like structure, which can move. Now what is that? That is ookinete. Now this ookinete is moving, can move from the lower region to the upward region. So whenever it is moving throughout the intestine, it will reach at one period of time to the stomach. In the stomach, what actually happened? It completely become non-motile. It cannot move further. Why this is happening? See, in the region, in the stomach region, also the gastric enzymes will be present. No, it is arthropoda. In mosquito's body, the enzymes, digestive enzymes will be present. So in the digestive enzyme, what will happen? This ookinete will be completely destroyed. It may be possible, but actually it will be not. Why? Because in the stomach region, see, now ookinete will move in a upward direction. So whenever it will reach the stomach, in the stomach, what happened? This ookinete will develop the wall, or that wall is the cyst wall. So two walls will be formed. One wall will be partially held by the mosquito's epithelial lining. So the epithelium lining of the mosquito also will help in formation of the cyst layer, and inner lining will be formed by the ookinete itself, where the organism embryo is still there. Now this stage is known as oocyst stage. Okay, in this oocyst stage, it will reach the region of the stomach. So from this endothelial layer, it will reach somehow from this region, stomach region, from this cell layer to the region of the esophagus. Now in this region, oocyst, the same cell layers will be present. The cyst layer will be still there, two layers will be present. So from the stomach region, it will reach the region of the esophagus. So in the region of the esophagus, what will happen to the embryo? Suppose this is the oocyst which still have this cyst layer, within which this embryo will undergo the division. Once again, it will undergo division, and it will produce the number of haploid stage, and that haploid stage will going to rupture in the salivary gland, and whenever this oocyst layer will burst, at one period of time it will be stored in the salivary reservoir. In the salivary reservoir they will be present, and after that this haploid structures will be matured to a juvenile state, which will be somewhat like this. This is the sporozoid, which have the structure, sickle shaped structure. So what is that? So this is known as the sporozoid. So this sporozoid, at one period of time from the esophagus, it will reach the salivary gland region. The oocyst layer will burst, within which actually it will undergo division, meiotic division, and it will produce a number of haploid organisms. Now after that, what will happen? It will reach the site of salivary reservoir, and after that in the salivary reservoir they will be stored. Until that mosquito sucks the human blood, once again it will bite, then what will happen? From the salivary reservoir, amount of saliva will be actually injected by the mosquito, and whenever this saliva is injected, with that saliva the sporozoid will also enter into human body. And why this mosquito have to inject this saliva? Because they have to stop coagulation of the blood. So that's why they have to release the saliva, and whenever it releases the saliva, what happens? The sporozoid will also enter into the human circulatory system inside the blood vessel, and when it suppose enters the human blood vessel, it will continue the asexual life cycle. So this way it will complete the sexual as well as asexual life cycle separately in human body. Asexual life cycle occurs. Okay, this is the asexual cycle, where it include the pre-erythrocytic phase, exoerythrocytic phase, and erythrocytic phase. And after that, from the erythrocytic phase, when a mosquito bites, then from this blood, this microgamete and megagamete will enter with the blood inside the intestine of the mosquito. It will develop, get mature, and it will form the mature female, and the male undergo fertilization, produce the zygote. After that, it will produce the ookinete, which will move from the intestine, goes to the region of the esophagus, first of all to the stomach. In the stomach region, they will develop the oocyst layer. That oocyst layer will be formed partially by the stomach tissues of the mosquito itself, and the inner oocyst layer will be formed by the ookinete itself. So what happened is, oocyst within which the embryo is present will go multiple meiotic division. It will produce a number of structures that are known as the sporozoid, which will be stored in the salivary reservoirs. And once it is stored in the salivary reservoir, this mosquito, whenever now suck the blood, it will start the life cycle. So inside the mosquito's body, we are going to see the sexual cycle, where the meeting of male and female gamete occur, isn't that? So inside the that female Anopheles mosquitoes GI tract, in the region of the intestine, it will undergo the sexual reproduction, and after that it will produce a zygote, and this way the whole life cycle complete. So this Plasmodium parasite will complete the sexual life cycle in mosquito's body, and the asexual life cycle will complete in human body, and this way the life cycle of Plasmodium complete. So hope all of you have understood the sexual and asexual life cycle, the differences of the Plasmodium vivax, Falciparum ovale, and Mallory, their incubation time period, the disease, after how many time period recurrence of fever will occur, that will be provided with the PDF. So this is about the whole life cycle, and we have completed the protozoan disease. In the next video, we will see the other type of helminthic and fungal disease. So that's all about today. Thank you.